An old proverb states that when we're young, people will stop at nothing to make others. As we age, we come to the realization that often wise folks do. On the other hand, welcome to the video for today, where we'll look at 9 things that intelligent men ought never to do in their partnerships. With one of the women you know is Marcus Aurelius. The greatest emperors of Rome once remarked that the biggest errors made by males aren't the mistakes they make, but the things they should not do just yet, but yet attempt to do. And usually the more intelligent someone is, the more they are likely to produce these errors. In this brief video that I'll share excellent insights from Stoic philosophy lessons that many men, including myself, had to discover the hard way. And I'm positive that among the viewers of this video, you will discover oneself in the circumstances we're going to talk about before moving on to the major. If you have any comments on this article, please create one of these errors. I think your tale could be useful. Other males steer clear of the same "don't talk about your past." The first trap is to keep your history private. The first principle that we must talk about is about safeguarding your history. You understand famously remarked, "Old thoughts return to stalk us like historical ghost choices," and nowhere is this more accurate than as opposed to in Let Me Tell You Anything About Relationships. This is a common mistake made by influential, intelligent guys. Error, since they believe that being open regarding their past demonstrates emotional maturity. They reveal their darkest moments when they fail, their vulnerability, believing it will lead to a closer bond. But this is what they don't understand, that after sharing anything, you cannot take anything back. I've witnessed innumerable men have the same deepest fears, traumas from previous relationships or personal struggles, just to possess these items utilized against them later. When we learn from the Stoics not to, everything must be said aloud and not every truth must be shared. See your past as a priceless gem that you don't display. Everybody who shows interest in you, only distribute it to people who have demonstrated themselves deserving of your confidence over time, because you must face the hard reality. Shared during a private moment can turn into munitions in the midst of rage. So what would be the remedy? Gradually becoming selective with your previous sharing. Share sensibly, and above all, share only the things that are useful in your currently connection. According to Marcus Aurelius, the best retaliation is to avoid being like you. Opponent in this instance, the best defense is not to cede your authority by early disclosure. Keep in mind that mystery isn't only appealing, protective, and keeps your, not because you're hiding, but because you're private. However, since you're defending you have the right to share your tale, darling, but exclusively to individuals who have merited it. Number 2, overcome your fear of being by yourself. Let's chat about something while we're alone. Most males would not acknowledge that they are afraid of. Aristotle asserted that self-awareness is the source of all knowledge. Because the unsettling reality that many men continue to live in poisonous partnerships just because they fear isolation. Consider how often you've thought about it. Did you spot a buddy, or perhaps even you continue to be with the wrong person? Simply because the idea of being by yourself appeared worse, as if you were residing in a burning home due to your fear of the chill outside, as we learned from the Stoics. Our fear of nothingness can occasionally be more harmful than the void itself, which I recall collaborating with CEOs, men leaders, and prosperous businessmen who was capable of running boardrooms, but couldn't manage a Friday night by themselves. They would rather put up with drama and rudeness, even emotional torture, rather than confront their fear of being alone. Yet this is what they don't recognize, that when you're afraid of being alone, you give your authority to anyone who is willing. The Stoic will keep you company. Philosophers had a revelation. Profoundly, they were aware that whoever is unable to be alone will never really understand. If he is in a relationship for love or for fear, that you won't be able to decide clearly regarding relationships while running from isolation. Therefore, what's the remedy? Take baby steps at first and learn how to enjoy your alone and discover tranquility in isolation, as this is the paradox once you grow accustomed to being by yourself. People will naturally gravitate toward you if you add to your life, instead of people who merely fill a gap. Keep in mind that being alone yourself doesn't imply that loneliness is a sign of strength. Sufficient to wait for what you are due. instead of embracing what you fear? Time management is the key to losing number 3. Use your time sensibly, judiciously. Let's discuss something that may affect you personally. Spending your sana, the most valuable resource, is one of, according to the greatest Stoic thinkers, something powerful. We don't have a short time to live, but we squander so much things, and this is more accurate nowhere than in relationships. Consider the number of hours you've been obsessing over texts, waiting for unanswered calls, or attempting to determine what she actually intended to reflect on the weekends you've wasted time attempting to win over someone who wasn't even certain about. According to Marcus Aurelius, time is like a river disappears once it flows by. I've witnessed far too many men spend forever pursuing those who see them in their prime years. As a contingency measure, they place their goals on hold, plans with pals canceled for go workouts for the sake of someone who wouldn't reciprocate for them. Unpleasant reality while creating someone. Otherwise, they might be giving you precedence, a choice that the Stoics comprehended. One important aspect of time is the one thing you can never get back is you. Can always generate more revenue and create new connections or establish new chances. But once they're gone, time, it is no longer there. Indefinitely, so what's the first step in the solution? Valuing your time as it is. It is an asset. Before making any hours, days, or months of investment in someone, ask yourself if they're putting just as much money into you as you investing time in establishing a relationship or merely addressing an emotional gap. Keep in mind, a sensible guy does more than just handle his finances. He is even more adept at time management, since we're not just giving in the end. Hours gone when we squander time on we're handing away chunks of the wrong person. Be proud of our life. Number 4. Take pride in your accomplishments. Here's a paradox. Many intelligent men encounter that the more they do, the more reluctance to acknowledge their accomplishments. And Epicus once remarked on relationships. If you wish to get better and be happy with being thought of stupid and foolish, but let's face it, there is the distinction between concealment and humility. I've seen successful men in your light minimize their accomplishments and conceal their ambitions, even act as though they are less completed, all due to their fear of showing up haughty or frightening. They'll help businesses succeed. Milestones are reached via awards, but in relationships in which they will pretend to be none of. It is important to understand why, as somewhere along the how they discovered that being successful could frighten people. Pay close attention if your A person's accomplishments make them uneasy. Marcus, that's not your problem to solve. AR has taught us how to get even. You should not act in such manner. Turn down your lights, since they might blind people who are accustomed to. Here's something to be proud of: darkness. Your accomplishments don't warrant boasting. It entails recognizing the effort you've included, the challenges you've surmounted, and the objectives you continue to pursue. Have a powerful women are not attracted to men who conceal their success, and she's looking for someone who can encourage her to pursue her own goals. So what's the answer? Take control of your trip. Not to impress, but to share your successes, to inspire. Since the appropriate individual won't feel intimidated by your accomplishments, they'll be eager to participate in your upcoming chapter. Keep in mind that your accomplishments they're not merely a part of who you are. Lines that are chapters in a resume or narrative. And anybody who wishes to be a portion of your existence ought to be prepared to go beyond the simple reading and read the entire book. Sections: take care of your mental health. 5th, safeguard your mental well-being. Let's discuss something that men don't often discuss. Talk about preserving your mental tranquility in interactions that the Stoics saw as a basic reality. Your mind is your too many guys, however, let their mental health deteriorates for the benefit of, making someone else happy. Interesting, we'll visit the gym. Work hard to safeguard our bodily well-being, to safeguard our financial well-being. But when regarding mental health, we'll allow it is torn apart by someone else's drama. As Marcus Aurelius cautioned, that hardly much is all that is required to create a happy existence inside of you. In the way you think, I've witnessed talented men become nervous wrecks looking at their phones, overanalyzing every 5 minutes. Talking about someone is making you lose sleep. Others' emotional fluctuations. They'll be able to tell themselves, it's common for it to be only relational dynamics. But here's the reality of your partnership is persistently disturbing your tranquility. It's emotional warfare, not love. We learned something very important from Stoics. Peace of mind is not negotiable. Something you give up for a connection, as if you lose your inner tranquility. What are you? Contributing in any way to the relationship, an agitated, tense, and exhausted version of yourself. What is the set of solutions? Limits. Learn to refuse to leave, and from the drama and the most of crucially, realize that someone who really concerned about you won't ever make you have to decide between their joy and your mental well-being. Keep in mind that your mental well-being is not selfish. Rather, it's essential since ultimately, pouring from an empty cup is not possible, and you cannot establish a wholesome friendship from number 6. An unhealthy mindset is stay true to who you are. Let's focus on something important, the art of remaining loyal to yourself in connections. As Albert Chu once stated, there's something strong about this moment. You begin altering your identity in order to please. The instant you begin, someone else is losing yourself. Consider how many you have occasionally responded yes when you wish to. How many times have you faked to say no? To agree with something you detested, views that you didn't act upon, or believe in differently in order to retain someone joyful, as we were taught by the Stoics when we suffer when we try to be someone we're not. On 2 occasions, one from the endeavor and one from I've witnessed a powerful principled failure. Men totally give up on their morals, alter their objectives, even distance themselves from relatives and acquaintances to accommodate someone else's ideal. They develop into superb performers, acting in a way they believe their partner wants to see. But this is the harsh reality. The instant you begin acting instead, you've already lost your sense of authenticity. The true irony of trying to be what someone else wants you to become, less appealing, but not more due to the force of authenticity, because there isn't a performance, as Epicus said, must be satisfied if you wish to get better. To be viewed as ignorant and foolish because remaining loyal to your beliefs. So the answer is to start saying no. Start speaking your truth. Yes, begin to uphold your principles. It might not be to everyone's taste, even go, but isn't it preferable to be? It's better to be alone than to be being accepted for who you aren't. Keep in mind that the proper individual won't require you to alter your identity. They will confront to develop into a better version of you are not a different person. Don't give up your objectives. Overall, number 7, don't make any sacrifices. Your objectives for other people. Let's discuss anything that destroys too many decent men's sacrifices, their aspirations and goals for a relationship. Seneca said it best. He stated that no one has the authority to possess what they desire, but it's in their ability to avoid wasting time. I've been chasing something they can't have. Many men postpone their careers, give up on business opportunities on their interests in order to conform to the life plan of another. It's a compromise, they tell themselves, that it's necessary for love. Yet here's the harsh reality of giving up your root for another person. You're not merely giving up objectives, you're giving up. You're in essence, you are aware of what's. When these men wake up years later, it is tragic. Later, resentful and wondering, they look in the place where their hopes went, mirror and hardly notice themselves, as cautioned by Marcus Aurelius. Examine yourself thoroughly. There is a source of power that will always emerge if you consistently observe the true issue isn't simply about quitting up. Opportunities, it's about falling out of favor, regard for oneself as well as the respect of your partner. Since, let's face it, nobody genuinely respects someone who gives up their reason for love. They could value the sacrifice at first, but ultimately, they'll question what became of the initially they were drawn to an ambitious man. So what's the answer to keep your dreams alive? Your passionately pursued ambitions include your companion on your path, if they so choose. Join, but don't veer off course, for a genuine collaboration benefits both parties. People's journeys. One is not necessary. Someone to desert. Keep in mind that the appropriate individual will promote your goals rather than compete. They'll be proud of you with them. Objectives that are not under danger do. Your life is enhanced by true love, but it doesn't deduct from your family comes first in dream number 8. Put your family and friends first. Hello, friends. Let's talk about a crucial, I observe intelligent men making sacrifices. Their fundamental connections for a romantic buddy. Plato had a brilliant idea when the first and greatest victory, he continued, is to overcome oneself in order to be defeated. Of all things, being alone is the greatest dishonorable and disgusting, and nothing demonstrates this better than when males stop using their network of support for a relationship. I've witnessed innumerable times. Men are gradually disengaging from their buddy's absence at family gatherings, terminating all long-standing traditions to appease their partner. They believe they're making investments in their partnership. However, their actual action is burning bridges they may be in dire need of. Later, as we learned from the Stoics, no man is an island, but each guy must have his. This is what's tragic by the time tribe. These men are aware of their error, frequently feel alone. Friends have moved on from family. Relationships are no longer close, and if when romantic relationships don't work out, they're left the very system of support completely alone. The one they required was the one they abandoned. You're curious about something intriguing, the most robust connections. The ones I've observed are those in which both partners keep up positive relationships outside of relationship, since you can rely on one somebody to meet all of your emotional demands. You're not merely positioning oneself for a letdown, you're placing a difficult strain on them. So what's the solution? Keep your family stays connected through friendships, so time for those in attendance prior to this partnership, and who will be if it finishes with a partner who attempts to cut you off from your support system. System is not safeguarding your partnership. They're in charge of remember your close relationships throughout your life are similar to a safety net that you may not believe you require them, but in reality, proceeding smoothly, but they're crucial when times are difficult. Don't wait until you're falling to discover that you've severed your avoid using your personal safety net. Number 9. Steer clear of excessive dependence. Too much dependency. Let's wrap up with maybe the most important rule is to stay away from the trap of too much. Marcus Aurelius stated that reliance. There's something meaningful about this, that you have control over your thoughts, not external circumstances. Recognize this, and you'll discover strength. Allow me to illustrate what I see too many smart, accomplished men relying entirely on a woman's endorsement, focus, or presence. They look at their phones, obsessively organizing their whole itinerary about her availability and experience anxiety. When they don't receive a prompt react to their fluctuations in mood with her texts, their happiness is dependent on her. The Stoics would urge to grin. When you make someone else answerable for your peace, you become into their slave behavior. This is what's intriguing. The more reliant you are, the less you seem so lovely that it's like your dread of self-fulfilling prophecies. In fact, losing them results in the very situations that drive them away. Since, let's face it, nobody wants to, it's too much to be someone's whole universe. Excessive pressure, accountability, the harsh reality when you make someone your entire self. Nothing happens when you cease being they were a self-assured, confident man, drawn upon and transformed into a shadow of, you're always looking for approval and comfort. So what's the solution? Create a life that is so rich and significant that a relationship improves. Instead of finishing it, have your own hobbies and keep your personal space. Always keep in mind that real power comes inside rather than externally confirmation. Keep in mind Marcus Aurelius taught us how to live a happy life. Depends on how well your thoughts independent of the presence of others, not with their consent, but independently inner fortitude and steadiness. As we wrap, conclusion and concluding remarks, continuing our conversation about these 9 essential ideas from the Stoic school of thought. Let us keep in mind crucial. These aren't merely guidelines about relationships. They serve as rules for preserving your strength, dignity, and genuineness as a guide from defending your history of handling your independence. Every principle we've covered derives from age-old knowledge that's still incredibly pertinent today. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, it takes very little to make someone happy. Everything in life is contained within you. Method of believing that these ideas aren't about controlling or influencing connections. They're about creating a solid foundation within oneself. So believe every relationship you get into improves your life instead of defining it. Stoics have a great understanding that genuine power in partnerships originates not from our actions, but rather from what we decline to do. If you found this video to be meaningful, press that like button and spread the word about it. Potential recipients of this communication are guys. Post a comment below letting us know the principle that most resonated with you. Your experience may be precisely what it must be heard by someone else. Now keep in mind to adhere to these guidelines. Doesn't cause you to become emotionless or cold. Makes you intelligent, since ultimately the foundation of the best partnerships isn't sacrifice or reliance, but based on reciprocal individuality and respect. Strength. Until the next time, keep it up. Remain sensible and above all, true to oneself.